Are you one of the many people that believe that AI is going to magically transform your business and you're going to be able to do things faster with less employees and cost in the very near term? If you're thinking that, stay tuned because we're going to break it down and talk all about what's real and what's noise in the small business sector. I'm Melissa Franks. I am your On Call COO, and this is the Optin Podcast where we go from surviving to thriving in business. We talk all things small business that can be helpful to the owner and the founder or the employees working inside of the business. And today, we're going to talk about AI because it's the only thing that anybody wants to talk about right now. And the amount of conversations that we have been having with clients and prospective clients and just people out in the wild around their expectations for AI has led me to realize that we need to have the conversation right now, right here, so that all of you can be informed about what the best way to integrate it is in your business. Now, just to reset expectations here a little bit, I am a dinosaur. I'm joking, but I kind of am. And I graduated from college literally the year of the .com boom. That's how old I am. I went to school before the internet existed and before we had email and all of the things. And so I've watched this cycle happen before. And the great news is that .com boom changed everything. The emergence of technology in the early 2000s changed every single thing that we do. There is not a single moment in your life, unless maybe you're standing literally outside in nature, shoes off, and you're grounded, that doesn't have something to do with technology. And I would wager that in order for you to get to that spot in nature, you had to interact with tech to get there. Did you use Waze to get yourself there? Did you drive a car with a computer inside of it? Think about, it's just so integrated into everything that we do. And my philosophy is that AI too will get to that place. But here's the thing, it's already been there and you just didn't know. Yep. I said the thing that nobody's actually saying. So as a technologist, which is sometimes how I identify by a lot of things, what I know, because I was at the forefront of a lot of emerging tech for a very long time, is that this artificial intelligence, this AI, this agent kind of philosophy, not new. In fact, in the late 2000s, we were playing around with technology that was creating bots for customer service. It was before the chatbot existed. But what was happening is we had these big call centers in India, and they needed a way to automate what they were doing. Customer service was using like 3 screens, and it was cumbersome and taking forever, and it was costing the business a lot of money. And we said, well, if there's some routine things that are happening, what can we build in the background and make it do it over and over and over again? That's all AI is doing. The thing is that in the early 2000s or the late 2000s and the 2010s and the teens and et cetera, you needed a developer to create the code so that the system would execute. There was no way that you and I, who don't know how to code, could just get into something and get it to do what we wanted it to do. It just wasn't possible. So if you've been around me for a minute, sometimes you'll hear me call the user interfaces that we now have from, you name it, AI tool, ChatGPT, Anthropic, Gemini, right? Copilot. That GUI, all that is it's lipstick on a pig. All that happened was somebody very smart said, you know what we could do is all of this intelligence layer that we've built, that we need developers to build, that need to understand how it functions, we can just put something on top of it. We can put a user layer on top of it, and then the common human can interact and they can have the perception that they are automating and moving things down. Now, I will say that there is some more sophistication because additional tools have been bolted on. And so you can actually build things that operate independently, right? So things have advanced. But at the end of the day, this technology is old. It's been around for decades and it's not new. And all that is different is that there is more data available now than there was in the 2000s and the 2010s and even 5 years ago. And why is that? Well, it's because the AI tools are scrubbing the internet. They are going out to the internet and saying, what is available? What can I consume? What can I do? What can I learn? What models and threads and trends can I pull together and then use that to respond to the things being asked of me by other people, right? And large language models learn. So they are built, they are coded to learn and learn how to adapt, which is what we're seeing, right? But in the background, way back there are still humans that are got their hands on the patient, telling the thing how to function and fixing it when it breaks. I think that's really important. And again, the third tenet of that is that AI is reliant on the information that is shared with it. So I want you to think about this a little bit this way, is that all of the large language models have access to everything that is publicly available. Cool, right? Everything. Now we know that not everything on the internet is true. We know that some things on the internet are wrong. Have you ever gone to Wikipedia, for example, and you've looked something up and you're like, that is not right? Well, it's because a human created the record, right? And sometimes the facts are not the facts. And sometimes people maliciously and intentionally put things out into the world that are not correct. So the large language models don't have discernment. They're going out, and if they see something said 1, 2, 10, 15, 35, 10,000 times, they're like, this, it must be true. And so when you go to one of those tools and you ask it about the tax code, you ask it to create a contract for you, you ask it to do some sort of executive functioning activity, right? Then all it's doing is taking all of that information that it knows from the internet and advising you. And it may be advising you wrong. And here's the kicker. You have a perception of safety because you are also, you may have a perception of safety because you are also giving it information about you. So you're like, hey, go take everything that you know, and then I'm going to tell you what I want you to do, and then I'm going to give you some information about X, Y, and Z, and then pull all of that together and create this custom thing for me. You guys, the problem is that the basis, like the foundation, like how they understand how things work comes from the internet. And so I want to talk to you specifically about how this impacts what's going on in your small business. Now, I love tech. I love an automation. This is not a I hate AI and I think it's bad for business podcast. So if you think that that's about where we're going to go, we're not. In fact, I use it all of the time. But I want to talk to you a little bit about how I use it and why I use it the way that I do, because I understand what's happening. I understand the context for how these systems were built. I also understand what's happening with my data in the back end. Does that make sense? Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple of examples. One of the things that we do is we have to synthesize a large volume of data wherever it comes from. And this literally can be anything. It can be your CRM data. This can be your financial data. This can be a bunch of dashboards and reports that you've had over the years with a combination of data. This can be ad platforms with data. This can be NPS scores or other quizzes that you've had. Like, this can literally be anything, okay? And what happens when you have it synthesize large amounts of data is if you're specific about it. I'm looking for X. Identify a trend with Y. Create a report out of all of these disparate things that communicate X, Y, and Z. What happens is it's highly efficient and more accurate than you. Whew, that's what I said. This is a great use of AI. Take all of this information and synthesize it. And then tell me what you see are patterns. Tell me what you see are outliers. Tell me what you see I should be paying attention to, right? That is an amazing use of AI. It takes something. I recently had it run a task for me where I had to go through my inbox and basically find information inside of emails for the last year. And I was avoiding it because I didn't want to do it. And then I said, I wonder if I ask Claude to go do it for me if it can. It took Claude 10 minutes. 10. It would have taken me a full day. And even then, I probably would have had errors. And then I would have had to go check my work, and like maybe I would have caught it and maybe I wouldn't. And what ended up happening instead is I got output, and then I was able to say, okay, there's a few things that are funky. Let me go fix them. So it was like a 30-minute task versus a 10-hour task. That's an amazing use of AI. Taking large amounts of information, distilling it down, identifying trends, creating reports, doing the things. Where use of AI gets really, really tricky is in thought leadership. And this is where my primary point of concern is. If you do not know how to do something in your business and you go to the tool and you say, tell me how to fill in the blank. What should I do here? Guide me around this topic. My revenue has stalled. What should I do next? All that the tool is doing is two things. It's taking what you asked and how you prompted it, and there's a lot of rules around that, which we'll talk about in a second. It's taking that question or that prompt, and then it's going out to the internet, and it's looking at what it can find, and it is also creating trends and like doing some analysis, right? I like to refer to this as basically the large language model is going out and it's talking to all of its friends and its network and its community, and it's crowdsourcing what information is germane to what you've asked, and we'll spit it back out, right? That's all that it's doing. And so it tries to give you a best match. So if you say, my business has stopped growing. Every month we're making $50,000, but I cannot get my business to grow past 50,000. Sometimes we're at like 48, sometimes we're at 52, but I cannot get it past that. What should I do? Well, then it's going to go out and it's going to crowdsource all of the information. What do people, what's the most common advice that's given? What happens with these businesses in this industry? It's going to go out and crowdsource all that information back, and it's going to come and tell you what to do. Now, it might ask you a few questions depending on the tool that you're using, but again, that's based on how can I refine all of the information that came back. So if your prompt is not written the right way and specific and going out to get the exact information that you want to look at, and or the information that it's crowdsourcing has some flaws in it, even if it is seeing it over and over and over again, what could happen is a recommendation that you get back that you then follow to the ends of the earth because AI is smarter than you and it told you to do this and like whatever, could actually kill your business. You could actually end up in bankruptcy because you did what AI told you to do. And this is the danger that I see. And it's specific to knowledge gap situations where you are using the tool to replace knowledge that you do not have. You're using the tool instead of hiring somebody that knows it, instead of hiring the expensive lawyer, instead of hiring the HR business partner, instead of hiring the CFO. You're using the tool to replace that. Here's the problem. You don't know how to do the job, because if you knew how to do the job, you wouldn't be going to AI to do it, right? And instead, because you don't know how to do it and you don't want to hire the person for whatever reason, you are trusting that the tool is giving you the right advice and information. And that is dangerous. It's dangerous. You're hearing a lot of medical professionals, for example, out in the world say, do not use AI to diagnose and prescribe treatment for whatever ails you. Because AI can't go out into the world and know everything that a doctor knows, right? It's looking at all of the documentation and all of the studies and all the reports and all the things. But you know what a doctor has that AI doesn't? Lived experience. And so I think sometimes, like, if I follow this doctor analogy a little bit, like you're hearing a lot more in the world in general right now that most medical science is based off of studies of male anatomy. And that often, because women were excluded from the studies or the findings or et cetera, that they do not work the same way for women. The treatments don't. And there are some conditions that women have that men don't, and therefore there's little research on that. So if you're going to AI and you're looking for medical advice and you're a woman, be careful, right? You really need that doctor to come in and say, like, yeah, I know that's what conventional wisdom says, but in my experience and based on what we know about women, et cetera, we actually do this thing instead. That's why you pay the doctor. That's why you go to the doctor. And so what's happening in business, because we don't have doctors, is that we're relying on AI to fill that gap of expertise. And that is reckless. I want to give you a few examples of how we use it based on our expertise and lived experience so that you can see what it would mean for you if you used it the right way. Now, all of us have a depth of expertise that we have that's unique, right? So we all have a depth of expertise that's unique to us. We know things that nobody else knows. So that also means that when you are trying to make something more efficient for the thing that you already know how to do, you're going to be able to identify errors. You're going to be able to refine so that it's better. You're going to be able to ask the right questions. You're going to be able to give the right prompts. When you're outside of your area of expertise, you can't do that. So here is an example. We, at On Call COO, one of the many things that we do is write standard operating procedures. All of the ops managers inside of the business, bread and butter. We've all done it manually. We know exactly how to elicit requirements. We know how to do the interviews. We know how to create the process maps and the swim lanes. And I'm going to bore you all to death if I start talking about how to create SOPs. Okay. So if we've decided that we want to leverage a large language model to help us be more efficient with documenting SOPs, then we can prompt it to do that. We can give it the information that we have. We can give it guidance. We can tell it, kind of what persona to take on, etc. And what it spits back out for us, we're going to be able to know, is it good? Is it great? Is it awful? We're going to know, did it get it right? Did it get it wrong? Is it meh? We're also going to know, did our prompt stink? And so we need to re-prompt it to get us a better output. And then we know, once we look at it, where we need to go tinker and adjust and change. And that is because we know how to write SOPs. That's because we know exactly what a process document should look like. One of the most common things, I'm just going to give you an example, that untrained people do when they write SOPs, and LLMs also do this and have this problem, is that SOPs are not just the happy path. So the happy path is generally 95% of the time, this is how it goes. The SOPs actually include all of the alternate paths. So generally it happens this way, but it could go this way. Generally it happens this way, but it could go this way. Generally it happens, but that happens sometimes too, right? The human that knows how to write a process, standard operating procedure, knows that we have to think through all of the other scenarios and determine what should and shouldn't be documented. That is a learned skill. It's lived experience. It's what we know how to do. We also know when it's important and not important, right? And the LLM can't figure that out. And if you don't know how to write an SOP, then all you're getting is the happy path. And then when something goes sideways, it impacts your business in a really negative way because nobody has a blueprint for what to do. It stalls the business. You get pulled into the weeds. You have to solve the problem. And generally, you don't go back and document it. So when it happens again, right? And that's why I say that the danger with using AI to create all these agents to do this stuff and to keep going is that if you don't have the expertise to train the tool, then you're going to have a tool that is untrained. And if you think about it, your employee number one that was a Jack or Jill of all trades and did all of the things was good at a couple of things and not so great at other things. And once you started to grow and you started to hire people to take those things off Jack and Jill's plate, you're like, oh, this is what a copywriter does. I had no clue. Or, oh, this is what a graphic designer does. I had no clue, right? You start to understand the difference between can get it done versus expert. And that's what's missing in the AI usage. The second thing that is highly problematic inside of the AI infrastructure today, and I'm seeing this a lot because we have a lot of clients hiring a role called AI architect right now, is that because the tools are so user-friendly and kind of self-serve, there are a lot of humans out there in the world today that are like, I'm going to learn AI and I'm going to be an AI architect. Cool. You do you, boo. They are highly paid roles. They are highly sought after. It's an emerging position. Absolutely go for it. The old lady technologist in me, however, knows that this is dangerous. And the reason that this is dangerous is because people start vibe coding, people start building agents, people start using various tools all over the place, and nobody writes a damn thing down. Nobody. And you've hired an AI architect that can leave. They're an at-will employee. They can go whenever they want. They're a contractor. They can go whenever they want, right? That's building all of these automations, all of these efficiency things inside of your business. They're building all of it. And they're the only one that knows why they chose this platform versus that platform, why this one works this way and that one works that way, and which one talks to who and which one doesn't, and like how it's all integrated. If they don't do formal technology documentation, this is what developers know how to do because they are required to do it. And they do not do formal QA, and they don't do formal code production, and they don't do formal rollback procedures, and you probably have no idea what I'm talking about, do you? If they don't do all of those things, what's going to happen is you're going to end up with an entire environment of AI slop. And when your AI architect changes, the new person comes in, they're like, I don't know why I need this built this way, I'm going to rebuild the whole thing. And you know what happens to you? You waste hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars because you are hiring AI architects that are not technology professionals. I recently interviewed somebody that it was very clear had a strong passion about AI, was entrepreneurial by nature, could learn very, very quickly, and had no technology background. And as I was going through the conversation, I realized how dangerous it was. And I said, hey, if you were to have this role and we asked you to go learn how to become a software developer, would you? This person said, yes, absolutely. And that was the first spark for me where I was like, oh, this is problematic because the discipline of the profession is necessary for people to be successful AI architects in the long term. And nobody is talking about it. It is the biggest danger and risk I see today for businesses that want to implement and fast track with AI and decide that they're going to hire somebody that knows how to do it for them, and they do not understand what they are hiring. I have seen it for decades inside of early stage startup businesses where like somebody got really good at coding something and they become the CTO and then it becomes a dumpster fire because of all of these reasons. I've seen it for decades. I watched this movie 1,000 times. I know how it ends. And my one thing, if you get nothing else from this podcast today, is if you are looking to hire somebody to implement AI in your business, make sure that they have the pedigree to know how to document what they are doing, how to test what they are doing, how to bug fix what they are doing, how to document releases, so as they're making updates and changes and etc., right? Make sure that they have that. This is a really dangerous period of time right now because there are so many AI platforms exploding, and I guarantee you that 70% of them are going to disappear. It's what always happens. I personally know over 15 development languages. 15. Most of them do not exist anymore. Sit with that for a second. I'm fluent in 15 development languages, most of which don't live anywhere, and I learned all of them from about 2005 on. So over the last 21 years, I've learned 15 development languages, most of which don't exist. That's what's going to happen in the AI space. So if you have somebody vibe coding and building tools and doing all this stuff on all these disparate platforms, stuff you've never heard of before, and you're like, what is that? They're going to go, some of them are going to go away. And then you're going to end up reliant on something that doesn't exist anymore or isn't getting updated and fixed and isn't compatible with things, and it's really, really dangerous. And so as you are implementing AI and you are using it more as an enterprise solution across your business, you have AI agents, you have automations running in the background, what you also need to be doing is investing in a human that understands the underpinning of the technology profession and can ensure that it's being implemented in a way that protects you in the long term. So when we look at AI, these core tenets that I'm talking about, making sure that your technology stack and ecosystem that includes AI is built and managed and documented by a technology professional that knows how to do that, so that whenever you need to hire another technology professional, they can hand it over and everybody's talking in the same language, in the same format. You want to use AI to help you become more efficient and more effective with things you already know how to do, because you can then spot when it's wrong, you can spot errors and mistakes, and you know how to prompt it well. You also want to ensure any models that you are using, you are prompting and training appropriately. What I mean by that is, if you are using a tool that allows you to create documentation and store documentation about your business, about you, about your clients, about how you speak, like anything, do that first. Lay the foundation. So when you go in, you're like, you know everything about my business, and you know everything about me as a founder, and you know everything about our clients. So use all of that information and then go do X, Y, and Z. And then the next thing is knowing how to prompt. And this is as silly as it gets, but it's like that old school ICA work that we used to do where we were like, Susie's my ideal client and she's a stay-at-home mom. She's 35 and she has 3 kids and 2 dogs, and right? Like we used to do all of that stuff. Well, the AI prompt needs to know all those same things too, depending on what you're asking it to do. Assume that you are a senior copywriter for the New York Times. Blah, 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 blah. Do this thing for me, right? Like you need to give it context and information, and you need to set the stage, and you need to give it direction and guidance and boundaries. And some of that may actually be exclude these things or don't look at these things. It just depends on what you want to do. But you want to be really good at prompting as well. I think that AI is going to make businesses more efficient, that is going to revolutionize the way that we interact and function inside of businesses of all sizes. I also think that it's going to kill a good amount of businesses because they're going to rely on it too heavily, and it's going to steer them in the wrong direction. And so as much as this podcast is a how-to guide from a technologist around getting started with AI in your business, I also want it to be a cautionary tale that experimenting is good, reliance is bad, until you know that you really truly can rely on it. If your business stops being able to function without AI embedded in it, it's probably time that you take a closer look and say, what's the risk if one of these platforms goes away? What's the risk if one of these things stops working? And ensure that you have a plan to mitigate that risk, because everything is new right now, and that's dangerous. So if you have questions about how to implement AI in your business, if this has been a wake-up call and you're like, I need to have more conversations about this, or if you haven't started with AI yet and you're kind of wondering what you could do with it, we are actively taking consultation calls right now on Call COO. This is a topic we're discussing with every business we work with, and in almost every consultation call we do. The link is in the show notes, so let's have a conversation. Let's see how implementing AI for your business makes the most sense and get you on the path to efficiency. Until next time, friends, please know you are wise and you are strong and you are capable, and I believe in you.